Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, Dave. Perfect. And George, you got your mic on. Wonderful.
Great.
Sorry, I was not paying attention.
Oh, no worries.
And my headphones were not on.
No problem. Okay, and so
Hi.
hi, Sybil. Perfect. You guys know when to join. Perfect. All right, thank you all so much for your patience, and thank you for everyone who has tuned in on the phone. We are just about ready to go Facebook Live, and we'll be starting in just a minute.
Okay, hello, I'm Senator Henry Stern. Welcome back to our town hall, coming to you live from my living room. Thank you for bearing with our telecommute here. I think we are about to start our Facebook live feed. So to the folks who are on our Zoom line, on our teleconference, or streaming from the website, bear with us just a moment. I want to make sure our Facebook audience is also tuned in to our latest town hall. I think this is town hall, I don't know, maybe number 4 or 5. The days bleed together. I think we've all been finding that. All right, let's just give it another minute here and we'll get started. Just give us one more minute. Thanks, everybody. Okay, just got word. We are live. All right, welcome. Thanks for bearing with us through some of those brief technicalities. But again, I'm Senator Henry Stern. I represent the 27th district. So those of you tuning in from the north part of LA or East Ventura County, I work for you. But frankly, the way we're doing these town halls and trying to get information out right now, we're trying not to be too turf-oriented or jurisdiction-oriented and just get good information, especially from the state of California, but also the local level that you guys. Our last town hall, there were a lot of unanswered questions about what to do if you are unemployed, partially employed, recently fired, could be potentially let go, on sick leave. We had way too much unfinished business there not to hold another one of these town halls, and frankly, too many headaches that you guys have been experiencing in terms of going through the system, whether it's dealing with EDD and the state infrastructure, questions you've got about your eligibility. So we got smart and found other people who were smarter than us to help you. So I am so grateful today that both Jenna Gary and George Warner have joined us from Legal Aid at Work. We did a town hall with them on Friday, and Jenna was phenomenal and rolling with the punches here, as it were. I think the thing I would just like to say at the outset is, for everyone tuning in today, looking to get their own specific claims dealt with, case by case is going to be key, but also know that, to be frank, we have not had our entire act together on how to administer this system. The state has been waiting for federal money. There's been guidance pending, and it's left a lot of you in limbo. And it's unfair at this moment. It's not time to point fingers, and we deserve blame. Feds deserve blame. Everyone, we can play the game of why didn't the website work right or who's at fault, but just know that you've got a channel here for whatever frustration or whatever it's not working systematically to go and fix this stuff. So I'm on a task force for the Senate to push on both federal and state architecture to make it work, to get the EDD open for more than 4 hours a day and to a full-time day. We just got that done last week. Now it's not 4, but it's 8 hours to shift and flux staff over to the EDD from, say, other state agencies like our tax agencies or even our DMV to do additional staffing and bring that staff up to be able to handle the volume that we've been getting. So suffice to say, you all are in limbo. This is a precarious time. I just got off the phone with my sister, who's even an artist, and my brother-in-law, who are self-employed artists, and trying to make it. And I said, tune into my Facebook. I don't know how to answer your question, so we're going to talk to the experts. So I wanted to start by offering the folks, George and Jenna will walk you through how Legal Aid works better, but you can go right now if you're tuning in, and we'll put in our feed, legalaid@work.org is their website. And it may be a good way for you guys to follow on and sort of look at some of their resources as they roll through it. And those are in English, Spanish, and Chinese, by the way, so multiple languages. And then those of you who are tuned in, take down a phone number. We'll repeat it a few more times and advertise it after the call. But if you want to talk about a specific situation you are in, the phone number to schedule an appointment with their workers' rights clinics is 415-404-9093. And so a lot of those clinics are now being held virtually. They're usually held sort of around the state, but we would highly commend that to you. Let me give you just a very brief update, and then we'll dive into some specific questions and start working through details. And we're honored to have some testimony from folks who are workers out in the community today who have submitted their questions and are going to be tuning in over video too. So I don't want to keep them waiting too long, but let me just give you a quick recap. And for those of you in Zoom, by the way, George Warner just posted a great fact sheet. So if you're on the Zoom conference, you can see it there. The Facebook live feed will put it there as well. We're trying to be millennial. I'm a very old millennial, so forgive me. You're reaching beyond my comfort zone already, but I'm going with you. So the physical distancing and safer at home orders have been extended through mid-May. And we don't know yet when the peak will be, but we know we're doing a pretty good job in the state of California to avoid some of the problems that New York has had, especially in LA County, where we thought we could be a real hot spot. There's some awful tragedies occurring still on a daily basis. We lost many people, in fact, just this weekend. But today's focus is not so much about the public health. It's more so about the economic side of being unemployed or having new childcare responsibilities from your kid being home when you're trying to do a job, family sick leave, disability insurance, that range of issues here that affects a lot of people, and you may have tools at your disposal you didn't realize. The feds have moved out over $2 trillion through the CARES Act, and it's just now starting to hit the streets, which means it's going to get to you. And that's about 17 million. If you're unemployed, you're among 17 million people in California. 17 million people have filed in the last 3 weeks for unemployment insurance nationally. In California, it's been about 3 million claims. So we're a huge chunk of the federal load, but it's more than we processed in all of 2019. A normal month is about 200,000 claims in the state of California. So to give you a sense of perspective, we did 3 million just in the last 3 weeks. Unprecedented impact. And like I heard an analyst say the other night, it's like our economy's fallen into a black hole. Essentially, everything has been put on hold, and we're left in the lurch. The most important new benefit that we're going to be talking today is a $600 a week supplement to the unemployment benefits from the federal stimulus package. And beginning today, this is pretty fresh news. So beginning today, the checks are arriving for anyone receiving benefits for April 4th and forward. So these checks will last through the end of July if your employment situation doesn't improve or change. And you don't get paid weekly. So I think it's every 2 weeks, and the attorneys can help fill in the gaps here. But I think the design right now is that the $600 per week is there. It gets lumped together twice a month. But in theory, it should amount to $2,400 a month as a supplement to what you're already getting. So that's a little bit of a high-level overview. Know that at a state level, we're going to be pushing for a greater benefits package, more funding, frankly, out of the feds, and we're going to be looking where we can fill gaps. So the state has got our own $20 billion rainy day fund, and the governor's done an amazing job of managing it, and so is the last governor. So we've got money. Right now, we're trying to sort of survey our constituents, like we're doing today, and figure out what isn't working really in the system. So let's dig into some details here and start off by introducing both Jenna and George. So Jenna Gary, Jenna, you're the senior staff attorney for Legal Aid at Work, right? And then George, you're a wage protection fellow. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Also an attorney.
Okay, so fellow attorney, gentleman, scholar, and an expert on wage and wage protection laws. Is that right?
Yeah, and I've been I'm the speaker on unemployment insurance usually, and Jenna knows everything else, and unemployment insurance.
Got it.
But yeah.
And so, can you and Jenna just tell us briefly what is Legal Aid at Work?
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit law firm based in San Francisco that represents low-wage workers across the state of California. And as you mentioned, we have clinics that usually run in person around the state, but right now are running virtually at the number, the 415 number that we already discussed. And then we also have a bunch of kind of practice areas. We bring litigation on behalf of misclassified workers, people who've been discriminated against, and we also do policy advocacy. Jenna's team, she can speak more about this than I can, but has done a lot of excellent policy work to make sure that people who are working and have families have rights and can live their lives well.
Yeah, doesn't seem like a lot to ask, but these days it is. So, Jenna, I want to kick the first question over to you just to give us a sort of overview of things. But first, I also wanted to note that among our individual testimony we'll be having today, I think Sybil is with us as well as Dave, both of whom are working in the arts, entertainment industries, and dealing with their sort of self-employment challenges within those industries. So more to come later on that. But can we kick off with you, Jenna, and try to get just a high-level answer for Barbara, who's from the San Fernando Valley, who asked him just to clarify exactly what the federal benefits are and what exactly they have to do to receive those benefits.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So that's a very big question, but I think when we think about the new federal benefits for workers, they really fall into two different categories. So under the two federal packages that passed, the Coronavirus Families First Response Act and the CARES Act, it not only mandated certain new rights for employees that are paid directly from the employer, but also new rights to benefits under our unemployment insurance program. So now the federal benefits, if you work for an employer with less than 500 employees and you are still working, you're entitled to up to 80 hours of paid sick leave that you can use for various reasons related to COVID-19, including if you need to stay home because of a child or childcare or school closure, or if you're caring for a family member who's also sick with COVID-19 or you yourself are. And then the federal package also provided for extended paid leave if you need to take more than 2 weeks off to stay home because of school or childcare closure. And those benefits are for people that are currently still employed and could be working or teleworking, but for COVID-19 related reasons. And those are paid directly by your employer. So there's no agency you apply for, your employer should be providing those to you. Then there's the second set of benefits that really just added and supplemented our state unemployment insurance program. So there's, George will talk much more about this. The three major ones that you should know about is there's a program that allows you to get the $600 additional benefits on top of any unemployment insurance benefits you're already getting. And like you said, that just went into effect and people should be getting those starting today. The second is it extended the length of unemployment insurance such that you now have additional 13 weeks. So this is not only for people who are currently on unemployment insurance, but if you've exhausted your unemployment insurance benefits, you also now can get these additional 13 weeks. And so in California, you can get 26 weeks generally. So now it's 39. And then the largest one that I'm sure we'll go into a lot more detail is the new Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, which provides unemployment insurance for everyone who isn't normally covered under our state unemployment insurance, including the self-employed and true independent contractors, but we'll kind of go over the nuances there.
And can I just add 2 points there? One is that even though the leave benefits are paid by your employer, your employer will get tax credits to pay for all of that. So I know that some people have concerns about asking their employer to take leave, but it's no cost to your employer ultimately. So they shouldn't have any qualms about giving you that leave. And then the second thing is those are all the great federal benefits, but there's also some state benefits that you might not know about, including disability insurance and paid family leave. And Jenna's really the expert on those, but I just want to make sure that people don't forget about disability insurance and paid family leave, especially. They may make more sense in your situation if you're not physically able to work right now, or not able to work because of child or care situation.
Right. And so then that's actually a perfect transition, George. Mary had a follow-up question, just sort of asking how the different types of benefits get distributed. And she asks, does it differ by person? So you mentioned one type of benefit and sort of using an insurance function versus the disability benefit. Can you guys dig into that in a little more detail?
Yeah, so it's pretty complicated. In my view, it's too complicated, but I will try to give an overview. So for unemployment insurance, you'll get between $40 and $450 a week in state benefits. And then you'll get the $600 top off until the end of July. If you get pandemic unemployment assistance, then you'll get between around $170 and $450 a week with the $600 top off. For both of those, if you work during the week, that's going to eat away at how much you get in benefits. And there's a little peculiar situation that's happening with the CARES Act where if it may not make sense for you to work to make $605 a week. It would not make sense to make slightly over $600 a week right now because if you become ineligible for the state benefits, which you'll become ineligible for, you'll definitely become ineligible for if you make $600 a week. You'll no longer be able to get the federal top off as well. So I just want to make sure that people are kind of careful when they're handling these benefits.
Is that calculated on a week by week or a monthly basis?
It's calculated on a week by week basis. For true independent contractors getting paid on a contract, it's a little bit different. But yeah, it's calculated on a week by week basis, and you have to report how much you earn, not how much you get paid. So say that if you made $300 in a week, but you weren't going to get paid until the next week. It doesn't matter when you're certifying for benefits, which is what you're going to have to do every week. You apply once and then you certify every week. You're going to have to report what you earn. So you're going to have to report the $300 you made that week, even if you get paid 5 days from now.
Right. Understood. Jen, did you have anything to add there?
So I was just going to add the other part. So right. George covered unemployment insurance, but he mentioned in California, we're extremely lucky in that we're one of the handful of states across the country that has state disability insurance and paid family leave. And nearly all employees pay into this program. It's a payroll deduction. And so if you're getting paid on a paycheck, you can check your deductions and you'll see one that says CASDI. That means you've been paying in and you therefore are entitled to receive these benefits when you have a qualifying event. And so for these benefits, they're also administered by the Employment Development Department. So it's the same agency that's going to be giving you this money, but it's a completely different application process and you get these benefits for different reasons. So you get state disability insurance if you yourself cannot work because of a disability, and this would include a diagnosis of COVID-19. And you can get those benefits for up to 52 weeks. And they provide you with 60 to 70% of your normal weekly wages, up to $1,300 a week. So it's a higher maximum weekly benefit amount than unemployment insurance, but the $600 top off is not included for disability insurance. So on a case-by-case basis, it's going to
one may be more beneficial than the other, depending on probably what. It's a function of maybe how close you're getting to that 600 a week.
I think it's
the important thing here though is when you're applying for applying for disability insurance, you're certifying that you cannot currently work due to a disability. When you're certifying for unemployment insurance, you're certifying that you're able, available, and willing to work. And so you really got to think about your situation and where you're at. And then paid family leave is part of the disability insurance program, but you get those benefits when you're caring for a family member who has a serious health condition. So if you're caring for a family member that's diagnosed with COVID-19, you can get up to 6 weeks of paid family leave. And that's actually going to be going up to 8 weeks starting July 1st based on something that happened last year. But again, it's that same wage replacement rate of 60 to 70%. And while you can't be on unemployment insurance and state disability insurance or paid family leave at the same time, you can do it consecutively. So your circumstances can change and you can hop on and off the different programs.
Got it.
And you can also apply for both if although you can't receive benefits from both. You can, if you're you can get in line for both if you're unsure of what benefit fits for your situation.
Okay, very good advice. Speaking of getting in line, then Ava reached out to ask, as did scores of people. Is that still a word people use? Scores. We've had many complaints about not being able to get a hold of anyone, wait times. Where should they be turning, and how long should they expect to wait, especially under the new staffing requirements that the state has pushed out? Do you all have a better sense than I?
We have a slightly better sense, I think. So the first thing I'll say is be patient. If you just applied a few days ago, you shouldn't expect to hear back right away. And the second kind of super broad advice is be persistent. So if you get denied or you think that the wages that are shown on your notice of award are not accurate, then you need to follow up with the EDD and make sure that they get the right information.
Okay.
In terms of reaching out to them, as you already mentioned, the phone lines, that there are going to be increased hours for reaching EDD. I think that's rolling out over the course of this week and into next week. You can also contact the EDD through UI online. There is a Ask EDD function before you log in, and there's also a Contact Us page once you've logged into UI online. And I'll put in the chat a video that we made that walks you through how to get to that Contact Us page, and it walks you through a specific question, if you don't have any, if your notice of award does not show the right wages. But you can use that video just to see generally how to get to the Contact Us page. And then I think Jen has also, mentioned in the past that you can reach out to, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name, but the
America's Job Center.
Yeah.
Right.
The America's Job Center, and the EDD is suggesting you can reach out to your local one, and they can either try to help you or set an appointment for you to speak with someone at EDD. But yeah, I can only echo George's patience but persistence motto, because unfortunately, even before this unprecedented demand and filing of applications, these call centers were very difficult to get a hold of, even in better times.
Right.
So to the extent that, I will say the EDD is being much better right now and constantly updating their website and trying to get as much information up there to help people through this. Our website, as George said, we have some videos to really help you navigate the tricky ins and outs. But overall, I think using the online system, the Ask EDD, or going through the job centers are probably going to be your best bet at this point.
Or also reaching out to our hotline to see. And there's in the LA area, there's I know Bedsedic Legal Services has a clinic, and there are some other nonprofit clinics that might be able to be better, more quickly answer your question.
And if for no other reason than arming me with information, if you are pursuing these channels, send us an email also and document your experience. that will help us with oversight here. And we're going to be having budget oversight hearings and looking at EDD issues in specific detail in the Senate. And so the more you can get specific to get us your feedback there, the more helpful I think we can be. I think Patrick Connolly in our Zoom chat had a question about COVID testing. I'm not sure if it was a general question about COVID testing or testing as it relates to disability insurance. Let me assume that it's in the paid disability context. Is a test necessary? And then I know Dave also at Thomason, who's going to be speaking in a bit, had lobbed in a question too. And I'm happy to actually, after we get this one answered, jump over to Dave for a sec after that. But Jenna or George, just on is the test, is a positive confirmation on a test a precondition to being eligible for the disability insurance?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So a test is not a prerequisite, but to get disability insurance or paid family leave, you do have to have a medical certification. So a doctor has to complete a medical certification saying that they, based on their medical opinion, they believe you should not work or the person you're caring for needs your care. But you don't have to have a positive COVID-19 test for them to certify that. They can use their medical opinion based on the fact that you've been exposed or on your symptoms, whatever you're experiencing, to make that certification. And the EDD has made it clear that they can use telehealth to see you in order to make that certification, and they can certify online.
Okay. I'm going to just try to keep going in order, in some kind of order here, even though I know the Zoom chat, we'll come back to you guys who are throwing some of those good, timely questions in the Zoom chat and as well as over our Facebook feed. But Maria got us a question in advance that sort of relates to one area I don't think we've talked about yet, which is underemployment, no formal layoff, but hours being reduced. She says that her hours were halved starting March 16th, but her unemployment claim has only provided her with $10 a week. So what are the resources available to people experiencing sort of reduced employment, if you will?
Yeah, so I can start with that. First, if the rule of thumb is that if you're earning more than $600 a week, even on partial employment, you're not going to be eligible for unemployment insurance. If you're earning less than $600, you should apply, and you're likely going to be eligible if you're working less than 75% of your normal hours, or you're earning less than 75% of your normal wages. For Maria's specific situation, she mentioned that she was only getting $10 a week. That I would suggest that she look at the notice of award that she received and make sure that all of her prior wages were actually, that EDD found all of her prior wages, because the amount you get paid each week is based on your past earnings in the last 15 to 18 months. So for most people, either October 2018 through September 2019 or just 2019. Right.
So maybe her reported earnings actually aren't stacking up, and what they're saying she's lost is actually much less than she's actually lost.
Well, yeah, it would be that it'd be basically just that, like, that her, either one of her employers didn't pay payroll taxes, or she was misclassified as an independent contractor, or she was paid in cash. In any of those circumstances, her benefit amount would be lower than what it should be, and so she would basically be losing out on money.
Got it.
And yeah, so that would be a kind of another piece of advice from her. But the other thing I want to add is that you never need any formal anything from your employer. So you don't need to get a letter from your employer. You don't need to be formally laid off. As long as you're underemployed and making less than $600 a week, you may be eligible, and you should not wait for your employer.
Right. So it doesn't really matter what they call it. There's going to be a path if the wages and hours. And is it about the wages? I know we had a question pop in on the Zoom chat. If hours matter, or if it's really wages matter. Let me just pull that one out. Adam was asking, is there a maximum number of hours that someone can work a week, or is this really about a total dollar amount?
It's the amount you earned in a week, not the amount that you but not the number of hours that you worked.
Right.
And just to add to that, to just make clear for Maria that's getting the $10, as long as you're getting some amount in unemployment insurance, not zero, anything above zero, you will get that $600 top off. So that's the important thing, is like you could be getting $10 and you're going to get that $600,
Got it. Hey, I don't know if my staff is okay shuffling over to Dave and going out of order a little bit, because he had some timely questions about the PUA eligibility and active, when it's going to be active. Do you guys have the ability to pop him on screen? Dave, do you mind being popped on screen? We have the benefit of you.
I don't mind at all.
Okay, cool. Hey, jump in. I know I have a whole a fancy introduction by the way for you, but you're very generous to give us your time. I know you're doing a few things in addition to being a musician. You do some gig work as well, and you've got an interesting situation. Give us a tiny bit of background, and then maybe you can get into the PUH.
Well, first of all, I'm not a millennial. I'm a boomer.
No, ageless format.
No, I know. I'm just. I'm a very, very old millennial. But anyway, I'm a musician. I'm an independent contracting musician. I've been a freelance for 40 years, and I also do rideshare, also to supplement that when things don't go right, because that's how the way the business goes. I'm used to that. My question is, basically, they haven't set up the PUA to even apply for yet. What are the limits? Is that $600 thing going to do that? And how do you calculate how much I make in a week when my kind of income is so sporadic, if you will? It's not based on a weekly payroll. I guess that's the last of my questions.
Yeah, no, we'll be a little flexible. We'll riff a bit.
Yeah.
But Jenna, George.
Yeah. So let me start. So we've a lot of people have multiple things to make it work. They're musicians, they're drivers, they do a lot of things. If you have some work that is either you got a W-2 for it, or it's gig work, so you got a 1099 for it. But in California, you should be getting, you are an employee under California law. In those situations, you're probably going to be eligible, or almost certainly going to be eligible, for unemployment insurance. So you should. So if you're in your situation, I'm guessing you should probably apply. Not even guessing. You should apply for unemployment insurance to see if you're eligible for the traditional state unemployment insurance benefit. And that's a very important kind of notice to everyone, because if you're eligible for state unemployment insurance, you are not eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance. So pandemic unemployment assistance it's only for people who are not eligible for the state program. So if you have any W-2 earnings, or if you work on a gig platform part-time and have some independent contractor work, or it's not really clear whether or not you should be an independent contractor, you're just being called an independent contractor. And my kind of rule of thumb tricks on that one are you working a 9 to 5 or similarly scheduled hours? Are you doing the exact same thing that the business does? Like if you're a janitor at a janitorial company but getting paid a 1099, you should be applying for unemployment insurance. If you're a nail salon worker at a nail salon, if you are a car wash person at a car wash, all those workers are almost certainly misclassified, and they should be applying for state unemployment insurance because they'll, first of all, get their money faster since the pandemic unemployment assistance application is not up yet, but also because they may not be found eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance. I think that was just kind of the first step of the question, though, and I might have lost track of the rest.
No, but in Dave's case, right? Like he doesn't go into the same place of business every day. He's not going to the nail salon. Like you're looking at his shop, and so he'll get hired for whatever, a gig or a project. I mean, I know this from my sister and brother-in-law, same time.
Yeah.
And it comes in lumps, if you will.
Right.
So how do you deal with that?
So that shouldn't. So for in Dave's case, in Dave's case, because of the gig work, I think it doesn't matter as much. Sorry, let me take a step back. For your eligibility, it doesn't matter how much you're earning on a week by week basis. It matters how much you're earning in big chunks of time, in quarters. Right. So January through March, April through June, July through September, October through December. For eligibility, it doesn't really matter whether your income is going like this or it's going all over the place. And since you've worked in gig work, you'll likely be eligible for state unemployment insurance and apply. Take away the gig work. If you're just a musician, the same thing. You should be reporting. I can't give super definitive advice about the PUA application because it's not out yet. But my understanding is that you should just be reporting your income as it came in. In the future, when you're certifying for benefits, you want to certify the money that you're getting in as you're earning it. So if it's a one-night gig, you're gonna report your earnings the day that you played the gig. Sure. If you're a contract worker and you sign a contract for 3 weeks for $3,000 or $1,500, you're going to report $500 a week or $1,000 a week. Right. And so that's kind of my basic advice on reporting income, because there's two things. There's your past wages, which you report when you got paid, and there's your future wages, which you report as you're earning them.
And right now, there is no earnings in music because we can't go out and play anywhere because there's nothing. Of
course. Yeah.
I would add to George is so right about how the distinction for unemployment insurance and that you should try to file for the regular unemployment insurance. And if that doesn't go, then pandemic. But also, it depends how you structure your self-employed, but you may also be eligible for more the self-employed business benefits that came out in packages too. So you might fall in this weird where you're going to be able to get some benefits as an employee and also some benefits as like an employer. So I encourage you to also look at those benefits.
Yeah, that's in my family. Dad's an actor, sister and brother-in-law musicians. Like they made their own corporations, right? So they have their own production company, whatever you call it, and they'll file. I don't know exactly what kind of corporation, but in theory, those corporate entities that you file, and I know a lot of folks are doing this in the arts and entertainment industry. Could be eligible for, say, like an SBA loan or one of these other sort of economic disaster recovery loans.
Yeah, so we're not really like experts about the business side of things, but the Paycheck Protection Program is definitely something you should look into because it's called a loan, but if you're spending on payroll, it's a grant.
Right.
Yeah, it ends up being a grant. So that's that for truly self-employed people, including artists. It's a great place to look.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we go down? Dave, just give us one more follow-up here if you got one.
Oh, I did do that. I actually applied for that loan, the SBA loan.
You did?
Oh, good.
I did.
There's nothing wrong. Like what Dave's doing then, he's like sort of pursuing a few channels. We're all in limbo a little bit on PUA. Smart, though, if you have that structure at your disposal to go down, say, the business loan route, because it's basically been converted into grants. Also good to go down whatever route you got, essentially. Just cast a wide net. That's what I'm hearing as sort of your guys' overall advice here.
As long as you're honestly reporting the income that you make, I think that's fine. And
and you may be limited in terms of options too. If you haven't, for instance, created your own S corp or whatever, you're not going to have that small business option. But
although I don't think you need to, I think that my understanding is that even some independent contractors can get sole proprietors can get the Paycheck Protection Program loan/grant.
I'm seeing you nod, Dave. Are you?
Yeah, that's when I applied for it. They specifically showed on there, what are you? And I was a sole proprietorship. I do have a DBA, but I don't have a corporation. But it didn't seem to They just wanted to know how much I made on my taxes the previous year or whatever, and they were basing on that. So,
gotcha. One more question on the PUA front, because I don't want to let Sybil hang too long too. I want to shift over there while we still got her on the line. But we did get a bunch of questions about nonprofit employees whose organizations don't pay into unemployment. Do you know do they have a unique circumstance? Are they still potentially eligible for the pandemic unemployment assistance, or any advice?
Yeah,
there?
so my sense of that is there's no exception for nonprofits to paying into unemployment insurance. So, but your eligibility for unemployment insurance does not depend on whether or not your employer, whether it be a nonprofit or a big business, pays into the system. If you're an employee, you get unemployed. You can be eligible for unemployment insurance. So the hurdle for those workers is going to be to show EDD that they in fact made those earnings. So you're going to have to go back and get your pay stubs or comb through your bank account and show where the deposits were. And when you're applying, it's good to answer your quarterly earnings in the actual application form. So it's very clear to EDD how much you've earned. But if you were misclassified or paid under the table, or even if it was a nonprofit, you should still be getting your benefits. We're definitely equal opportunity enforcers when it comes to things like that.
Yeah. So my staff is saying there's a question that's been re-upped a few times about Sybil, I do want to get to you. Let me touch this one before we move. If your unemployment insurance has already run out, will your eligibility be extended? So really a question around whether you get the 13 additional weeks for those who have run out. Comment there?
Yes. If you exhausted, George, is it July 1st or August 1st? I think
July.
Yeah, I think July 1st. So if you exhausted since July 1st, you are eligible for the additional 13 weeks, and you'll have to reopen your claim in order to get those. The guidance we have from the EDD right now is that's not yet available to do that. So yes, if you've exhausted, you are going to be eligible for those 13 additional weeks, but unfortunately the process to do that is not yet available.
Right. I want to get over to a question at some point from Jennifer. It's a very important question about audits, but Sybil, do you want to just tell us, while we have your some remaining time in your afternoon, just your experience with EDD and what you've been going through, and maybe a little bit about the kind of work you do?
Yeah, right. I'm a photographer. I do aerial and architectural photography. I have a DBA, but mainly I'm sole proprietorship, so I get 1099 miscellaneous forms, right? And so it's been 40 years or so before when I was unemployed last, and I'm going on this website and I have a little problems with it because when I go on there now, it doesn't show that I filed a claim, right? Is that now because it's so stuck because everybody's trying, or can I see that I applied? Did they even get my application? I'm not really even sure. I don't know. Is there only one passage where you apply for? I mean, I applied for under a disaster subcategory public health. Is that the same? Or
so I can take that question. So what you applied for was the state unemployment insurance benefit, and the pandemic unemployment assistance benefit. That application is not yet available. If you've been a sole proprietor for 40 years, you're almost certainly not going to be eligible for state unemployment insurance because you won't have the past wages, which is earnings as a employee, to qualify for state unemployment insurance. And although there is that section in the application right now that asks about the disaster, and there's an option for a public health disaster, my understanding is that's not necessarily going to funnel into the future application for pandemic unemployment assistance. So you should check back frequently at the EDD website, on the coronavirus response page for updates about pandemic unemployment insurance.
Okay.
And then the other thing on your state unemployment insurance claim, you're not going to be able to see the status of that claim until you first register your claim. So it's a little bit of a confusing process. You first have to register for account, then you apply, then you're going to either get an email, or in some cases you're going to get a paper letter with a 9-digit code, I think, on it. But when you get the email or the code, then you can register the claim. And then after you've registered the claim, then you can see what's happening with your claim. And trust me, even though I'm explaining this as simply as possible, it doesn't mean I'm not annoyed at how complicated it is.
I get it. I didn't get an email. I didn't get a letter yet, but I just applied last week. So you're saying I should just kind of forget about the state and maybe just go for the pandemic insurance once it starts happening because
But even still, Sybil, we should be sending you a confirmation email. You should be getting at least some acknowledgement that when you click submit, there's at least some response that says, thank you for your submission or some notice. So we'll take note of that.
Yeah. Exactly. We have received your request for application.
Yeah, we've got to be able to get that done. So that's, I mean, even if they're right and you end up that's probably not the right category for you, it's not acceptable to just click a button and then it goes into the ether.
Disappears.
So
the one thing I'll leave it. Or actually, I do want to add one thing, which is so if you're if you really like if you're an independent artist and you've been running your own business for a very long time, it's fine to wait for the pandemic unemployment assistance application. But if you've done anything that is if you have any W-2 work, if you've worked for any gig worker app, if it's unclear if you're an independent contractor, then you should be applying now for unemployment insurance to make sure that you're not eligible for that.
Yeah, it's just kind of hard because you know what, work just simply stops, right?
Yeah, and it's tough. It's frustrating to hear about all this money that's supposedly out there but not getting to people.
Yeah.
Well, I will also apply for the Small Business Administration loan. Yeah, just like.
And let us help you with that, Sybil, because you know there's these sort of technical advisors who are supposed to be able to help you through that process too. So I would advise having a sort of a navigator, if you will, at your side, so you don't just go it alone. ED Collaborative is one, so our staff will make sure we follow up there too if you are going to go through that SBA process.
I would just add, and for everyone to be aware that although this is extremely frustrating and our EDD system is 60 years behind the times, and that it's taken a while to get this application up and running, the EDD has said that, and the federal program is set up to be retroactive to the end of January. So even though you're not currently getting money, you're going to be able to get the money you should have been getting had the process been set up at the right time. So I know that's, not very comforting when you have bills due, but the money will come eventually.
Yeah, and I think that is some comfort. And I should say I do appreciate the governor stepping in after we sent thousands of complaints about the hours for the phone number to get that fixed in a matter of days was pretty Herculean task of making bureaucracy move. So the gov is listening here, and I think hopefully these forums surface some more of these issues. I know one that actually I saw Jennifer Walton put up, and I know some others have had it, is about sort of audit risk if you're applying as an independent contractor. There's concern about having to go through the sort of just headache of an audit. Is that something that people should be concerned about? Dave seemed to be a little concerned as well. Have you guys heard? Yeah,
so I can talk about that a little bit. So the audit risk is never to you. It's to the company that you work for. The audit risk is higher if we're talking about low-wage workers at larger companies that are exploiting their workers. I'm sure there is a risk for any independent contractor who's going to apply for unemployment insurance benefits. But and this is me as my opinion, not me as I can't guarantee anything when it comes to what EDD does or does not do. But I do not think they're going to be putting their putting the power of the state behind investigating a small time music, like a one night music gig or something of that nature. They're going to be going after the people who are doing this systematically and exploiting people by misclassifying them, or at least I hope they will.
Yep. And I would just say that, the stopgap, we're going to be looking at trying to push for maybe a little more guidance out there about how that'll work so people don't sort of have any inhibition about entering a program. But also the legislature is going to be looking at additional changes to AB 5 this year. I know the author and I have spoken specifically about sort of the independent artist freelancer space, composers, and that's an issue that it's a broader issue there, but that folks know is in need of some resolution.
And can I just add, I can just add one more detail about that, which is if you're concerned about the audit risk related to AB 5, for 99% of these claims, we're talking about the wages that you earned in 2019, which was before AB 5 went into effect. So whether or not you're an employee now depends on AB 5, but for most of the claims that are being filed right now, AB 5 is not relevant to whether or not you had wages and whether your wages. The 2019 standard applies. That's Borello. So what we're looking at for wages in 2019 is usually going to be, I can't say for every single claim, but it's usually going to be the Borello standard to see whether you had wages in 2019.
Right. I think just the classification issue in terms of the retroactivity, I don't want to lose everyone with too much gobbledygook, but the retroactivity of AB 5 for 3 years and classification based on that in this artist space is an issue that, look, I think we'll spend some time digging into more. And so we appreciate the feedback from our chat rooms and Facebook on that. I didn't want to let us slip too close to 5 before getting to one other question that seems to get re-upped, and a lot of people have had questions about it, which is, we advise folks based on what EDD told us for the standard unemployment insurance claim to be entering 0 for their wages, and then expecting probably to get a rejection, but at least be entered in queue as a way to stopgap it. Jenna, you and I were on the Teletown Hall last week where I tried to put that out there. But then we're hearing from folks that have been approved for $0 if they're self-employed, when they're self-employed, and they're confused. So I want to make sure I'm giving good advice on that front and what that might mean if they've actually been approved for when they entered the $0 in the field.
Yeah, I can explain, and it's complicated. So if you're truly an independent contractor, go for entering 0 and that you're self-employed. If you are unsure of whether you're an independent contractor or you're a gig worker, then put in the employer or the client if you're not really sure what it is. So if you worked for Uber, put in Uber. If you worked for Lyft, put in Lyft. Regardless of what you do, how you enter that in, the first thing you're going to get from EDD is you're going to get a notice that says $0 in wages.
Right. That's what Erica said. Erica said she got an insurance award from EDD for $0.
So that is, and it doesn't say this on the award. Don't ask me why, but that should say conditional. So that is them just pulling information from their database and saying, we don't see any wages from our database, even though you told us that you had wages. So that notice, all that notice should do for a worker is that should flag to the worker that EDD doesn't know that they worked. Or so if you worked at Uber or any company, that means that EDD doesn't know about your wages. If you're really a true independent contractor, don't do anything. If you are unsure of your status, you should be sending in evidence of your earnings to EDD, either by mail or by using the contact us function on the UI online portal. And there's a video on our website, legalaid@work.org/unemployment, explaining how to do that. And I'm hoping, and this is kind of a pitch to you, Senator, that
yes,
you can push EDD to have a web portal to put documents, because it's kind of crazy that you have to send the documents in by paper.
Yes, let's evolve there. Okay, that's going on our list. Well, what sounds like good things for our list is, in addition to the confirmation email the civil's looking for, that notation of conditional in the award, or some way for people to understand sort of what they're getting back initially, and then better document portal. Those all sound like very reasonable asks. Jenna, did you have something to add there?
Yeah, I would just want to make clear. So a similar thing also happens for disability insurance and paid family leave, is like the first thing you receive back from the EDD is like a notice of computation. And it's literally just a notice of what your weekly benefits should be and what your wages are in unemployment insurance, but it doesn't actually mean you're qualified. And so if you look on the back of those notices, they'll have a very general statement that's like, if you disagree with any of this information, please contact us within 30 days.
I see.
And so they think that's notice of like, you should just know then that you have to appeal and like contact them in a way. So if it's, you have missing wages in any way, you think the way it appears on state disability insurance and paid family leave, it will list all the employers you've had in your base period. You do, within 30 days, you need to somehow contact the EDD to let them know that there's an error in that.
Okay.
And then you'll get a follow-up that tells whether or not you've actually been approved for benefits and are going to get payments.
And so say you get that zero award, that conditional zero award, does that mean that you're going to be eligible for that $600 a week once those enhancements come in? Does that sort of, do you anticipate that kicking in automatically, or do you think a reapplication is going to be necessary?
So if you truly get a zero, like if zero is the amount based on because you're earning too much, like weekly, you've had a reduction in hours, but it's like the amount you're actually making, you will not get that extra $600. You have to have something above zero as an award in order to get the $600, but you don't have to do anything additional to get that $600. It's just automatically, if you're getting any money through unemployment insurance, you're going to get it.
So definitely don't reapply. What you should be doing is giving EDD the information it needs to show how much you were earning in 2019.
So you get that. So George, and Jenna, you get that zero award. Then don't sit on it. It's key to do that 30-day follow-up, make that clarification, figure out what wasn't done there, so that you're at least in queue for the 600 federal. Yeah. Right, I'm saying that. Okay, good. Let me take through just a couple others while I got you. Ton of stuff from our gig workers, sole proprietors. Angelique asked, she's a massage therapist and she works for a company and she receives a 1099. I think you went through this earlier in your nail salon hypothetical, but is she eligible to apply for unemployment insurance, and where do you think she might best qualify?
Jenna, can you take that one? Because I was actually handling the chat.
Yeah,
so
thank you, chat.
Yeah, as George said, if you are doing the thing that you're getting paid the 1099 for, there is a chance you have been misclassified. And so it sounds like she's a massage therapist working for a massage parlor. There is a chance that she is misclassified and should have been getting paid on a W-2. So in that situation, I would suggest currently submitting an application for unemployment insurance and listing the massage contractor she's been contracting with as her employer. And as George pointed out, what will happen is she'll probably get that initial letter that says $0 in wages because she's been getting paid on a 1099. And then she'll have to contact EDD. She can do that online, or there's an address that you can send it to show the wages she's getting. So she could send in copies of her 1099 to show what she's actually been paid.
Gotcha.
And the EDD will determine if she's been misclassified and if so, they will then
Got it.
her benefits. Yeah.
Get ready to use the mail. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, that scares me. Just hearing it's taken me. I've had a piece of mail. I did my census. That was like my big accomplishment. But I know how hard that can be. So we'll start working on how to digitize this interface. While we've got just a few minutes left on our forum here, I did want to pivot over for a second. We had an interesting perspective from some employers who had also been tuning in. Karen was asking, as an employer, she'd applied for the EDD WorkShare program weeks ago, but had heard nothing back. And they had to tell their staff then to apply for unemployment insurance. How's that process supposed to work for an employer?
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the I know of the WorkShare program, and I think that's great. He applied for it. That's, I think, going to be super beneficial. Unfortunately, I don't have experience with that and know the usual.
Okay.
Yeah.
George, if you have any insight, great. Otherwise, Karen, if you're out there in internet or telephone land, please follow up with us, because I think there are some pretty good guidance too for employers out there. And if you're doing the right thing and being proactive there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I want to make a plug that for employers who are trying to do the right thing, the WorkShare program is the thing you should be trying to do. I mean, it's gonna involve a little bit of interface with the state, and it could be a pain, but
sounds like it already is for Karen.
Yeah, of course. But it will mean that your employees are going to be able to get the extra $600, keep any benefits they have, and work less time. So I'm not arguing that it's going to be like I'm sure it's going to be an administrative pain. Yeah.
So let's just offer this then in the near term, since there aren't probably as many employers as employees or independents out there. If you are an employer, Karen, or others out there, and you've had that kind of complexity with WorkShare, just follow up with us and we'll casework your file. And if we can hook you up with some technical assistance on the side, we'll do that. But there was a question though about this SBA loan process, where an employer advised Marriac to go on unemployment temporarily, but then the employer went for an SBA loan, which requires them to keep their employees on payroll. So does an employer applying for an SBA loan impede an employee's ability to get UI benefits? Or have you guys looked at that scenario?
Basically, you need to honestly report how much you're earning each week. So if your employer ends up getting an SBA loan and ends up paying you, even if they're ending up paying you to sit at home, you have to report how much you're earning. And if you end up earning more than $600 a week, you're certainly not going to be eligible. But I think for the vast majority of workers, it's going to be better to be still on payroll than to be stuck in EDD. So I encourage employers to try to keep their employees on payroll.
Yeah, and I think embedded in this question is I think something that is just misunderstood, and I think it's because we call it unemployed insurance. You can still be employed and be on someone's payroll and qualify for unemployment insurance if they aren't paying you for that week, right? So you don't actually have to fire or lay off your employees for them to qualify for unemployment insurance. But like George said, once you start actually paying them, they need to report those earnings.
Yep. Okay. We're not going to be able to get to everybody, so I really, though, I so appreciate the live feedback. Let me see if I can just cover a few more with what remaining time we have with George and Jenna. And thank you guys again for being a lifeline for all these folks. Legal Aid at Work, we'll put in another plug, and we'll take your guys' guidance as much as we can get it. So bless you for giving us your time and doing this kind of legal work with your careers. So there's still a little bit of lack of clarity though for the self-employed contractors out there without 1099s. So if you don't have a 1099, but you're self-employed or a contractor, what do you do?
Yeah, I think the 1099 doesn't matter as much as your classification. So if you're truly an independent contractor, you can wait. And just one of the many nuances here is if you're an independent contractor now, but you're an employee over the last 2 years, you should still apply for unemployment insurance. So basically, if there's a shot in hell that you can get unemployment insurance, you should apply now. But if you've been an independent contractor for a long time, you've no W-2 earnings, then you can wait for pandemic unemployment assistance.
Got it.
Yeah, add to that, because I assume maybe part of that question is like, how are they going to prove their wages if they don't have a 1099? And so all I can say is they are still working on that. Like, so we don't yet have full guidance out of how, when you apply for pandemic unemployment assistance, you're going to, like, the EDD is going to figure out your wages or, figure out whatever your income is. But that's why we file taxes, and they're thinking about all the ways to get that information as easily and quickly as possible. So there's going to be lots of ways to do it, and it's okay if you don't have specifically a 1099.
And on that note, when it comes to taxes, I know we've been focused more on unemployment and EDD issues, but do you guys know that there's supposed to be a new quick file system coming up with the IRS for the general stimulus check folks are going to be getting? Is that an area you guys know a little bit about?
Yeah, we're not experts on it, but I do know if you go to irs.gov, it's right there on the front page. There's a button that's literally the first button you click, and it takes you to the where to get your check if you are a non-filer.
Yeah, and I would just say, I mean, this should be not requiring I'm an expert, but just you have to go through even that shortcut process with the IRS for 2019 to be able to get through this process and get that stimulus check, which is different than some of the unemployment benefits we've been talking about. I believe it's $1,200 per individual and then $500 per child.
And Senator, one thing we haven't been able to talk about, I don't know how much, I mean, there are undocumented people in every community. Yeah. So I want to make a plug first that, or give some advice to that community.
Please,
specifically. Yes. The first is that unfortunately you're not eligible for unemployment insurance or pandemic unemployment assistance, but you don't have to be a permanent resident or a citizen to get those benefits. As long as you have work authorization, you can be eligible for those benefits. But for state disability insurance and paid family leave, you can get those benefits even if you're undocumented, so long as you've paid into the system by working. So those might be important lifelines for those members of our community.
And that would be, I mean, if you're filing for your I-10 or some other system.
Yeah, but it's actually not even filing taxes. It's just if it's on your paycheck. If you've been paying in through payroll, yeah.
Got it.
Exactly. So as long as you've been getting paid on a paycheck, you have paid into state disability insurance, and therefore you are eligible for paid family leave and state disability, like regardless of your immigration or citizenship status. And please, I do particularly if you fall into that category and you're undocumented, please reach out to us at Legal Aid at Work. Our services are completely free, and your documentation status also doesn't matter for our services. So.
And I'm sorry, one more immigration plug that I forgot, which is for people who are work authorized. We've been getting tons of questions about if you apply for unemployment insurance, will that trigger the new public charge rule? And it won't. Unemployment insurance, disability insurance, paid family leave are all what are called earned benefits because you paid into the system and then you're taking out of the system. They're not public benefits. So you don't have to worry if you're not a permanent resident or citizen about triggering the public charge rule and losing your ability to become a citizen at a later date.
Okay. Very good points of clarity. Hey, as a closing note, give us one more time off the top, just a simple step-by-step of what you do right now for the non-W-2 contractors out there. Sort of like what's their just quick and simple step-by-step for the unemployment insurance side.
Totally. So apply for unemployment insurance. If there's any doubt about whether or not you're independent contractor, put in the name of the employer and let EDD make that decision. When you get a notice of award, follow the steps. You can go to our website, legalaid@work.org/unemployment, and there'll be a video there giving you instructions on how to trigger EDD to find more of your wages. And this is especially important for the gig worker crowd. At that point, gather your documents, 1099s, paychecks, to make sure that EDD has that information on hand, or make sure that you have that information on hand to give to EDD. And even if you think you're an independent contractor, it's still a good idea to follow all these steps, because this is all the same information you're going to need for pandemic unemployment assistance. So if you're an employee, you're going to need this. If you're an independent contractor, you're going to need this. And so gather those documents, get EDD to get those documents, and go from there. But be patient, because it's going to take some time. And I know that's kind of terrible advice.
But no, it's okay. If you just use us as your therapy. We need to hear your frustration. We need to hear what's not working. We're not looking for praise here. Send us those complaints. Send us what's not working so we can go fix this system better. We're not going to shy away from any of these holes and gaps and inconsistencies. So keep bringing that to us. Thank you to Sybil and Dave, especially for taking time and just kind of putting your stories out there, and everyone else who's been commenting. You're the man, Dave, and I didn't know, like, you play sax and a piano, you got a mixing board, like.
Oh yeah.
drop us a YouTube link or something like that. Let people see your style. And Sybil, I don't know if you got any of your aerial photography, but we'd love to see the work that hopefully you will both be back and doing soon. In the meantime, Jenna and George, thank you to Legal Aid at Work for joining us. And please, folks, lean on them as a resource. The one other resource I wanted to offer before we sign off is Onward CA. We'll throw the link down low, but that's supposed to be a compendium on all this unemployment, underemployment resources in the state. So Onward CA is supposed to be our one-stop shop. It's even also supposed to be a job resource center. So go kick the tires on that. The governor just launched it last week. They've been populating it all weekend and working really hard to make this a compendium of everything we talked about here today. The one other thing I'll offer to you, though, is we'll try to go through some of the Q&A we've had today, my staff, and we'll start putting out some FAQs of our own. So you sort of hear some of these people who may sound like they're in a similar situation to you, and hopefully get that back to you. But yeah, if you want job search resources, even assistance in like essential life services stuff, food and nutrition assistance, things like that, childcare, Onward CA is supposed to be that sort of one-stop shop, county resources, et cetera. And as always, hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, any of our channels. You can send me an email, senator.stern@sen.ca.gov. We're really trying to be responsive as best we can here. And thank you to my staff, Lauren and Megan and Nick and Josh and Jeremy, everyone who's been working over the weekend to try to put this together. You guys did an awesome job. So thanks for stepping up. And hey, give us some feedback. What do you want us to cover next? You want to dig in further here? Looking for volunteer opportunities, how to volunteer safely. We did a whole SBA forum. Let us know what's useful to you next, and we'll be back with you in the next few days. I think our next official scheduling is for, let me get this right, April 16th. I'm looking for a high sign for my staff. April 16th. Yes, April 16th at 4 p.m. So stay tuned. And thanks again, everyone. Please stay safe out there. Masks on, limit your essential service runs. It's getting better, but that's exactly the time not to let our guard down. I know it's hard, but if we stay disciplined here for this safer at home order, we're going to save a lot of people. So thank you. And for those of you hurting, we're hurting with you. So take care, everybody. We'll see you real soon.